America's streets are on edge. DC takes the Trump administration to court over a National Guard takeover. New Orleans braces for a possible deployment, and Chicago prepares for raids, protests, and a legal fight. Washington, D.C. has taken the Trump administration to court, challenging the president's decision to deploy thousands of National Guard troops in the city without local consent. The lawsuit, filed by D.C. Attorney General Brian Schwalb, argues that the move violates both the Constitution and federal law. According to the complaint, Guard members, many brought in from Republican-led states, were deputized by the U.S. Marshal Service and directed to patrol neighborhoods, conduct searches, and make arrests, activities that federal law generally prohibits for the military.
Deploying the National Guard to engage in law enforcement is not only unnecessary and unwanted, but it is also dangerous and harmful to the district and its residents. It's DC today, but could be any other city tomorrow. We've filed this action to put an end to this illegal federal overreach.
Schwalb said the deployment was unnecessary and harmful to residents, warning that what happened in Washington could easily be repeated in other cities. He maintained that the city's autonomy had been undermined and that the presence of armed troops had eroded public trust while hurting the local economy. Mayor Muriel Bowser, while critical of the deployment, has not endorsed the lawsuit. She told reporters her focus remains on managing the federal emergency and ensuring the city regains control of its own policing framework. The White House dismissed the complaint. Deputy Press Secretary Abigail Jackson said the president was acting within his authority to protect federal assets and assist law enforcement. She described the lawsuit as an attempt to undermine what the administration calls a successful anti-crime strategy in the Capitol.
President Trump is well within his lawful authority to deploy the National Guard in Washington, D.C. to protect federal assets and assist law enforcement with specific tasks. This lawsuit is nothing more than another attempt, at the detriment of D.C. residents and visitors, to undermine the president's highly successful operations to stop violent crime in D.C.
The case underscores the unique status of Washington, where the National Guard reports directly to the president, leaving local officials with little say in deployments that affect the city's governance and daily life. President Donald Trump has suggested that New Orleans could be the next city to receive National Guard troops as part of his effort to confront crime in major urban areas. The remarks, made during a meeting with Polish President Karol Nawrocki, come as Trump signals plans to expand federal deployments beyond Washington, D.C., where his administration sent troops last month. Trump has already floated the possibility of sending the Guard to Chicago and Baltimore, despite opposition from state and local leaders in both cities. His reference to New Orleans is notable, given that the city leans Democratic but sits in a Republican-led state where Governor Jeff Landry has expressed support for federal assistance. Local officials in New Orleans pushed back against the idea. Council member Oliver Thomas called the prospect political and unnecessary, while Council member Jean-Paul Morel argued that guardsmen are not trained law enforcement officers and that the city's police department is capable of managing crime with existing resources. Supporters of the move, including Landry, House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, and Louisiana Attorney General Liz Murrill, have praised the potential deployment, framing it as a matter of public safety. Murrill suggested that rejecting Trump's offer would amount to political obstruction. The city of New Orleans, in its official statement, struck a more measured note, emphasizing the value of federal and state partnerships in ensuring public safety, while maintaining that cooperation with local agencies remains key. Trump has repeatedly highlighted what he describes as success in Washington, pointing to reduced crime rates and more than 1,000 arrests since the Guard was mobilized. But critics contend that his approach risks turning routine policing into a display of federal power, particularly in cities that have not requested military involvement. Chicago officials are bracing for the possibility of National Guard troops, even as the Trump administration has not confirmed whether a deployment will take place. Reports circulated this week suggested that soldiers could be on standby by September 5th, coinciding with an expected wave of immigration enforcement, though Vice President J.D. Vance said there were no immediate plans. Governor J.B. Pritzker has signaled he is prepared for a legal battle. He said Illinois will challenge any deployment in court, arguing that the president's plan is both unlawful and misguided. Attorney General Kwame Raoul added that the state is ready to hold the administration accountable if troops are activated. In City Hall, Mayor Brandon Johnson issued an executive order instructing the Chicago Police Department not to cooperate with federal agents or National Guard units involved in immigration enforcement. Johnson said the city had not called for such intervention and pledged to use all available legal and legislative measures to protect residents' rights. The suburb of Broadview, home to a federal immigration facility, is also preparing for possible unrest. Mayor Katrina Thompson warned residents that federal officials expect the centre to operate 7 days a week for more than a month, a move she said could trigger protests similar to those seen in Los Angeles earlier this year. Community groups are mobilizing in anticipation. The Chicago Teachers Union started handing out flyers this week during school drop-off to remind parents and students of their legal rights in preparation for any National Guard deployment. The flyer, distributed in both English and Spanish, outlines key protections for immigrant families, including the right to remain silent, the right to refuse searches, and the right not to disclose birthplace or citizenship status.